Hey, Tony Gaskins here. I want to talk to you about something because I don't know what it is for different men. I don't know the reasoning, but one thing I've seen is when you look around and if you are privy to men, meaning being close enough to men for them to be transparent with you, even if you're a woman, when you look around, you have noticed that men who will kill for their wife have cheated on her, that have had an affair. It's a lot of men who have outside children. It's a lot of men who have a whole nother family. We've all heard those stories. And people talk about when grandma went to the funeral, she saw granddad's other family that she didn't know about. Or maybe she knew about it, nobody else knew about. And we see this. If you are a woman watching this, then you probably have been through the situation, or you know somebody who was with a man that was having a long-term affair and you had no idea. You never would have suspected it. We have seen mega pastors. We have seen politicians. We saw the president, Bill Clinton. We have seen almost every example of a man cheating on his wife. And that is why it's so normalized. That's why it's so accepted, because people start to lose hope. And people start to say, well, hey, if the police officer, who is supposed to be a man of standard, is one of the biggest cheaters in the city, as you've heard, women love a man in uniform. So a lot of police officers get more butt than anybody. If the firefighter, if the principal of the school, if the pastor, if the president of the organization or the president of the country, then who doesn't cheat? This is what I want you to understand. I was a serial cheater my whole life. I was a serial cheater, and even when I met my wife, I still had wandering eyes. I still was, quote unquote, a cheater, meaning I haven't made up in my mind, I hadn't made up in my heart that I would be 100% faithful. And the reason being was I didn't see it as normal. I didn't see it as a thing. When I wrote my book at 22, I believe one of the questions in the book was titled What Daddy Never Told His Little Girl. I believe one of the questions was, can a man be faithful? And my answer was no, because I had never seen it. You hear tell of it, and like women think their dad was faithful, and it's just because their dad sold up his game or the mom didn't want to expose her to it. And I never saw my dad cheating. I never caught my dad cheating. My mother, to my knowledge, as we were growing, didn't catch him cheating. I didn't think he was cheating. It was as I got older, he would spend a lot of time by himself before they got a divorce. But it wasn't like there was evidence or something like that. And one thing I did notice though, when I was young, whenever I was with my dad, and as I started to grow, get around 11, 12, 13, 14, to where I was, having girlfriends and getting into the ladies, when we would be at the grocery store, I remember specifically one time getting ready to walk into the grocery store. We was going into Winn-Dixie, and there was this lady that was walking out, and she was walking by, and she had a shape on her. And I was looking at my dad, like the whole time. I was looking at him, and he not once looked at her. Like, I don't know if he first saw her at the very beginning of the exit and just said, that's not what I need to be looking at. But I could never catch my dad looking at another woman. And mind you, my mom, she's an everyday woman. She is not like she won Miss America or like she was in pageants. She's a pretty lady. But it's not like guys were just falling out their chair. My dad used to talk about like her shape and stuff when he met her and when they got together and all of that. But I got her face. No, I got my dad's face too. but she is a pretty lady, but not to where like it's one of them things to where people like, oh, this man should never look anywhere because his woman is drop dead gorgeous. And he had that type of control, and I didn't understand that. Even as a man today, I still have to be conscious and I have to be mindful of, okay, Tony, you done seen that booty from a distance, you see it coming, don't double take, don't be looking, don't be lusting, because that lust is a sin. But I'll be honest with you, like where I'm, well, I have an unfair advantage than most men because I work in relationships, and I work in relationships pretty much every day. And so it's a little unfair for me to compare myself to an everyday man, because if I didn't work in relationships, I don't know if me not having the conviction of faithfulness and doing the right thing would be as strong as it is in me. I got a lot to lose. But think about this. You remember the guy, don't say the name in the comments because I don't like putting people's name in here and distracting. But you remember the guy who teaches on love and relationships and on YouTube and Instagram got caught and got exposed by the blogger for cheating on his wife, and not just one time, and not 10 years ago. It was like that same year, and like the year before, and like the year before that. And he was at the height of his career, but was cheating on his wife. So I cannot also say that that's the only reason that I don't cheat on my wife is because of my brand and where I'm positioned, because it's a lot of men who have a big brand and yet still cheat on their wife. We saw what happened with the comedian who is probably number one, number two comedian in America, got caught on camera cheating and had to come out and confess and apologize. And he and his wife stayed together. This is something that could be worked through. Couples should at least try to work through it to see if this can a change can happen. And I believe that keeps a man straight for a while. I don't know if it'll keep a man good forever, but for me personally, I will say that I feel like in my heart, the reason why I am, the other reason outside of love, because love, yes, I remember this lady tried to make a big deal because just being a single woman, not having a man, and not understanding how men love, not understanding that love is not really a strong enough emotion in a man to keep a man on the right path. And if we take the time to just look at it, like what men do to their children, like how many men have left their home, left their kids, how many men have been abusive to their kids, to their wife, to their mom, to their family. Like love for men is different. We just built different. So for me, love it in itself is not enough for a man to be faithful to a woman. It has to be some other conviction in addition to his love for his woman. And that doesn't make sense to a lot of women, because for a lot of women, love is enough. If for a lot of women, if they love a man, if they're in love with a man, not even if they love a man, not even if they're in love with a man, but for some women, if they love a man, they can be faithful to him. And guys don't believe that, but I tell guys all the time, when you was a womanizer like me, you get to see women for who they truly are. And I remember convincing a woman to leave her boyfriend of 3 or 5 years to be with me. But it probably was because he was mistreating her. He probably had put hands on her. He probably had cheated on her. And I came like the knight in shining armor. And I was more attractive than he was. Like, just based on our interactions with women, I knew that women thought I looked better than he did. He was older, and she left her man. She broke up with him. We got together, and then I never spoke to her again. It was a challenge. And I know that hurt to hear that to the women. That's like triggering, but that's the type of guy that I was. It was a challenge. And that's why most men cheat. It's not even about the sex, because Honestly, sex is not that good. Just because it's something so fleeting, it's something that is such a temporary feeling. It's not like you're on a high for days. It's like you feel good for a couple minutes. So it's not about the sex. It's actually about the chase. It's about the hunt. It's about the thrill. This is why men get in a cage and kick and punch each other in the face. This is why men jump out of planes. This is why men go to the army. This is why men box. This is why men hunt. Literally get a gun and go out and just kill innocent, harmless animals. And why men fish. This is men love a chase, a challenge, and a thrill. And so you as a woman, any woman realizing this, you're going to have to understand that your man is going to want some kind of chase, some kind of thrill. It's either going to be tackling business and becoming a millionaire or a billionaire in business, or he's going to have some type of hobby. And so I saw a guy who owns a restaurant, and in his bio, he says that he has 75 plus cars. He collects cars. And so then his wife has to ask, do I want him to collect cars or to collect women? Would I rather him be sleeping with 75 different women while we're together, or having 75 plus car collection that we can easily afford, and that when he is 65 and we want to travel the world, he can sell any amount of them cars and make millions of dollars. So it's really assets that he's building. He's driving his retirement. So, but some women don't think about it like that because they don't understand the other tick in a man. They don't understand that when you take away golf, when you're complaining about golf, when you're complaining about hunting, when you're complaining about fishing, when you're complaining about his car collection, when you're complaining about his video game, when you're complaining about anything that this man has as an outlet, because you don't want him to have anything because you want to be his world, or because it seems like he's making that his world and you're not getting enough time, instead of removing it all together, carve out the time, plan the date, put it on the calendar, he's going to be there. And if he has something to do that day, then put it on the next day or the next day. And that's what's not understood, because most women cannot fathom the mindset of a man being constantly thinking about sex. Most women cannot fathom that. Some women can, but they have a unique life story that put them in that disposition. When you really talk to them, you'll see like, oh, that happened to you at a young age, or oh, you was exposed to that, or oh, that's what happened. So, okay, that's why you think like a man. It's not just innate and natural for you. And I live with a woman, so I know the difference between a male and a female. I'm very clear on that. And a lot of times women talk a good game and say, oh, I want it every day. I want it every day. Yeah, until you have kids and your kids is in multiple sports at the same time, and you driving 4 or 5 hours a day, and you cooking and you cleaning and you doing all that, then you're going to see sex a little differently. But when you single with no kids, yeah, your body craving it every day because you're not burnt out from nothing else. You living this highly functional life. You working out, you at the spa, you having coffee, you doing your walk, your run, your squats, you feeling great. And so it's different. What I had to realize as a man is that for me, it is my relationship with God that keeps me faithful. Because I can cheat on my wife and get away with it. I can cheat on my wife and get away with it. I know this for a fact, just because, for one, cheating is not hard. So the way so many women are set up today, you as a man, you could meet a woman and sleep with her in the backseat of the car. Like, there are women who you can walk up to a woman in the grocery store and say, hey, you are the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my life. And I know this is crazy, but I want to make love to you. Are you with it? There are, if you ask 10 women, one of them going to say yeah, and it might be 3 or 4 that say yeah. I used to do that. I literally would be in the club whisper in somebody's ear. Next thing you know, this sad, ladies. This is why I say you gotta really raise your daughter. You gotta really, and to the men and women, you gotta really talk to your daughter and have her value her body. I cannot tell you how many women, especially in the college age, and I know it's women who watching this, who had one night stands, who you met a man in the club and y'all left out the club and had sex in the back seat of the car. To some women, that is so foreign, but listen, that is very common. Or you left the club and went back to one of y'all dorm rooms or apartments or house, and y'all slept together on the first night. And some of y'all, you never spoke or heard from that man again. This is very, very, I'm going to put two varies on that. It's very common. So cheating is extremely easy because it's not like every single woman in the world knows who the man is, knows where he works. And even as an influencer online, not every woman knows me. I meet women who look like they would be in my demographic, but they have no clue who I am. And think about it, it's millions and millions and millions of women. I don't have all of the millions of women in my following. And sometimes a woman may have seen my face and I may look familiar, but she just saw it in scrolling and she's just in a state where she don't want to hear nothing a man got to say, so she didn't stop and look at it and look at my name. So cheating is very easy. But for me, I can't really put it into words. And I feel like it's a spiritual conviction. I feel like it's something that God gives a man when a man surrenders, when a man submits his heart to God to say, I am a vessel, use me for your good, use me for your work. I feel like it's a strength that you can't put into words, because I see some of the most beautiful women in the world. I see women who are absolutely gorgeous. And I'm not blind. I can tell a woman is beautiful. I can tell that the woman may be loose. I can tell that the woman may be desperate. I could tell that the woman may be okay. I can tell by her energy that she may be okay being a woman on the side. I can see that. But it's just in this season of my life, and I believe going forward, there will be ebbs and flows. There will be highs and lows. There will be times where I'm weaker than others. But it's been over a decade that the Lord has been dealing with me in this way and just really strengthening me and honing me and just building me to where I can see a woman and be attracted to her, meaning know that she's pretty, but then go through a process in my mind that says it's not worth it. Like, unless I'm going to talk to her and build a relationship with her and divorce my wife and say, this woman, you are a better fit for me, which would take a year to figure that out, but then also realize I still would not know her because I'm still learning my wife, going on 16 years of marriage. So me also understanding that, I understand that everything gonna look like peaches and cream. If I meet a woman and we have a conversation, yeah, she's gonna look amazing. She's gonna look perfect because she's gonna be exactly what she know a man wants and needs in that conversation or in that duration. But when you live with a human, you realize that we are all flawed as humans. And so the Lord allowed me to go through that process of elimination, that deductive reasoning, that critical thinking, and say, it ain't what it seems. This ain't worth it. Like, this is not. And I have had times where I was really, really low, like really weak, and just ready to cave in. And when you look around, you see not every man, but you see a lot of men, and even respected men who are cheating. And so even like the Hillsong pastor, this huge old church, like celebrity pastor, and yet boom, infidelity. It's like this thing is real. But guess what? There are men who are committed to doing the right thing. And as for women who are watching this, you really got to take your time to get to understand the convictions of a man. For some men, it's just who they are. They're just a loyal person. They're loyal. And so when you see and you hear friends of that man say, man, he's so loyal. Like, I got one homeboy that I know is faithful to his wife. it doesn't mean that he wouldn't have a conversation or a woman flirts, that he's nice to her. But actually putting his thing inside of a woman, I can't see him doing it easily. Like it would have to be the strongest Jezebel spirit in the world to get him in that place. But also, this guy, my friend, best friend, close friend, I don't really have like friends like that because I'm so focused on my family. I don't get to talk to guys that much and hang out with guys because I'm be focused on my family. But he has no enemies. I've known him since I was 18. We met in college playing football together. He has no enemies. He's never made an enemy. Like everybody has just sings his praises. He's a big heart. He's a loving person. He'll bend over backwards. He'll give you the shirt off his back. Shout out to my homeboy Russ. I'm talking about Russ. And he's that guy. Like, it'll make me cry just thinking about it. And listen, I have touched millions of dollars in front of this man. This man has seen me touch millions of dollars. He's never asked me for a dollar. He's never asked me for a dollar. He's never asked me for a favor. Like, he's never asked me to do anything that would put me in an uncomfortable position. Like, never. And I've met people that I've known in less time, and they show me their true colors. They try to stab me in the back. They try to do something crazy. And he has not been that guy. And so that makes sense that he's faithful to his wife. And so some people, it's just them. He loved the Lord. He know the Lord. But I don't think it's about God with him. I think it's just who he is. Now, also, he doesn't have a whole lot of temptation. He's not like women are throwing themselves at him. So if that were the case, then it would be a different story. Now, women don't throw themselves at me either. Women are positioned. Women are in my DMs asking questions about love and relationships. Women are in position for me to make a move, but women are not blatantly coming at me and saying, hey, I know you're married, but I would love to get to know you because I feel like I can love you better than your wife is loving you. Or I feel like we're soulmates after hearing you talk. And you got married young. Are you sure that's what you want? Are you sure you're in, like, women don't say that to me. And so women are not throwing themselves at me, but I still could go out here and make some moves. But it's honestly a religious conviction, a spiritual conviction in my heart that says, and this is what I, on the flip side of this, because I don't just trust the nature of a man, especially if he has a lot of, like people say, a man is only as faithful as his opportunity. I don't trust the nature of a man. But with Christ, you are made new. You are made whole. You become a new creature in Christ when you accept Christ into your life. And so that's why I believe that it's extremely important for women to find a man of Christ who really walks with Christ, like who really is doing everything in his power to live by the Holy Bible, to keep the commandments, and to be a representation of Christ in the flesh, like so that the spirit of Christ, that the energy, the feeling, the mindset, the efforts, the love, the kindness, the generosity of Christ. In my dream today, I drove past a kid screaming and begging for money and got an attitude and then was stomping in the street. And I was looking in the mirror and I stopped and he took off running toward me. And he was angry because he was starving and he was screaming and yelling, I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry. And I got out the car and he was running so fast like he was finna run into me. And I put the shoulder on him and trucked him. He hit the ground. And then all his other homeboys that was out there begging for money, they started to come run. And I peeled off some 20s and dropped what stuck, and it was $60 that landed on his chest. And I hopped in the Escalade and my wife was in the back seat and I hit the gas and took off because the rest of them was back there and it was like they were finna rob me. Like, okay, you finna give out some money, we finna take everything because we savages now. This son that got to us. In my dream, I was Christ-like. in the sense of giving to the poor, in the sense of having a heart. And I realize that, like, when I have a dream, and my wife don't believe this, when I have a wet dream, it's of my wife. Like, when I dream of sex, it's of my wife. It's literally, I see her body. And it hasn't happened a lot of times, but I could count on one hand that it has happened. And some people say, oh, sex dream is a demon. Yeah, it is. You dream about somebody and you single, or you married, you dream about something else, then yeah, that could be a spiritual thing that is trying to steer you away from your partner and trying to get your mind, while you sleeping. But we ain't going into all of that. But I say that to say that Christ can renew your heart. Christ can renew your heart. And my wife, she'll come up on me and catch me looking at her picture. And this is a real true story. It does not mean that I'm blind. Don't mean that I don't see booties. Don't mean that when I'm out and about, I ain't got to check myself. I got to check myself. I got to minister to myself. I got to talk to myself. I got to talk myself off the ledge. Because the adversary going to try you. He going to tempt you. The flesh is real. You're going to be tempted and tried. But at the end of the day, this is what I say to myself. For one, I'm not scared of my wife in the sense of like real fear. Yes, I do think in the heat of the moment she'll stab me. But I think she'll more so come to her senses and be like, okay, that's what you want to do. All right, bye. So I'm not scared of her in that sense. I'm not really scared of being exposed. We forgave, our society forgive everybody for what they do. The comedian is doing fine. The R&B singer that, beat his woman is doing fine. The other relationship coach, I haven't checked out his page, but I'm sure he's doing fine. We just live in that society that we so reckless and we so sinful that, and the adversary want us to overlook sin, that people gonna forgive. It's people that have forgiven and don't believe the stuff about Bill Cosby, and it could not be true. I would assume it's true when that many people saying it. The NFL quarterback, with all of that happened with the 24 women, he's still in the NFL. You see what I mean? We live in a forgiving society, so I'm not even really afraid about being canceled. But at the end of the day, if I could put it into words, I would say, I don't want God's hand to be removed from my life. I believe that when you have a real encounter with God, that God comes in and he washes you, he cleanses you, he makes you whole, he makes you new. And I believe that what follows that renewal, what follows that rebirth, is such a blessing. And you can experience and feel the joy and the love and the peace and the prosperity and the abundance that there's no amount of sex in the world that can compare to feeling the presence of God in your life. And I think that women should make sure that when they meet a man, he has had an encounter with God. He has had an encounter with the Holy Spirit that has washed him and cleansed him and made him new. That a woman should be able to see a man's growth by day. A woman should be able to see a man's spiritual conviction, his righteous indignation, and his desire to be better. I am and have not always been the best man. And even to my wife, I have been less than a man at times to my wife. But one thing that she can attest to is that I don't quit, that I don't give up on the fight to be a better man, to be a better husband, to be a better father. Like, one thing she can attest to is that I have a heart for God and that I want to love her purely and fully and holy and better every single day. She can attest to that even in the midst of my flaws. And I feel like that unless a man has a heart for God. And so a gentleman called me the other day, a young man, he plays pro basketball. He called me, he said, Tony, what are the benefits of being married? And I say, to be honest with you, bro, the only benefit is to be under God's grace. The Bible says that, and that's not the only benefit, but the main benefit is to be out of sin, to be out of fornication. If you're going to sleep with a woman, then you need to be married. Because the Bible says a man who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. I say that's the biggest benefit. No other benefit compares to that. Yeah, companionship is great. Support is great. But the love of a woman cannot compare to the favor of God. That's why it says finds a good thing. It didn't say find the best thing. It didn't say find the only thing. It didn't say find the insurmountable thing. It says finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. That obtaining favor from the Lord is the greatest feeling, because the byproducts of the presence of God, the favor of God, is so overwhelming. It's so overwhelming. And so a lot of men don't realize the benefits of faithfulness, because it produces peace, it produces clarity, it produces healthiness. It produces, don't mean you're going to have no troubles and no trials and all of that, but you can overcome it because you're working on your mind, and you disciplining your mind, and you training your mind to be faithful and committed. So that means you are overcoming your flesh. That means you are beating, you are winning, you are developing self-control. And when you take that ability into business, and you take that ability into other areas of life, you can be successful in anything you put your mind to, because you have learned discipline and you have learned self-control. You have developed these things, and that's what men don't understand. So if a man is unfaithful to a woman, his heart is in the wrong place, because he's not considering her heart. So even if he doesn't believe in God and he believes in the universe, there are universal laws that God has put in place. And that's why the Bible says God reigns on the just as well as the unjust. There are universal laws in place. A man can't even get what he wants from the universe if his heart is not right with his other half, with the woman, who is woe man, who comes from the womb of man, meaning from the rib of man, and then we come from the womb of woman, but it's still coming out of the man. The child come out of the man and go into the woman, and then is matured in the womb of the woman. So we become one. We need each other. But a woman can't have a child without a man, and a man can't have a child without a woman. That's why we have to become joint partners in this thing, and we have to get into a union and have a covenant, and we got to keep that covenant in order for our prayers not to be hindered. Your prayers won't get past the ceiling if you're not on one accord with your spouse. If you backstabbing and you backbiting and you lying and you cheating and you deceiving and you manipulating, your prayers are not being heard. Your prayers are hindered, and the only thing you getting is just from the sweat of your brow, from the work of your hands. You don't have God's favor, because what God has given me, my work does not equal my results. And that's the thing of the presence of God. With the presence of God, 1 + 1 = 5, not 2. With the presence of God, 3 + 3 = 10, not 6. Because I can earn 7 figures, meaning $1 million or more in a year, but I don't work my finger to the bone because of the favor of God. I may literally work on average 7 hours a week, anywhere from 4 to 10 hours a week. And God will bless me with 7 figures plus. That is the favor of God. I had to toil, I had to work a lot, but even in working a lot, it wasn't hard work. I was working online. I was posting videos. I was writing books. I was posting tweets on Twitter. I wasn't in the hot sun with the sun beating on my back for 12, 16 hours a day. So you have to understand, when God is in the building, when God is in the midst of things, it's going to be some things that's unbelievable. And I sometimes try to make sure that my wife really processes, that my sons really process the favor and the blessings of God, and that they understand that this ain't y'all, this ain't me. We don't deserve this life. We didn't earn this life. This is the favor of God. This the oil running from the head. So when a man is committed to God and surrendered to God and in submission to God, then God will pour favor on that man, and that favor will run down that man and cover his family. God will position that man, and God will put that man in tables that he would not otherwise be able to be there. God will move through that man, and he will use that man, and he will bring opportunities and things. When you look at it, the things that happen in our family and the blessings from the house to some of the trips, some of the experiences, some of the earnings, God took and positioned me in a place and sat me at tables and crossed my path with people who he was able to use them to be a blessing. And it has provided experiences for myself and my family because of God's favor. And that's what I want men to understand. Like, why are you chasing women? Why are you dealing with women and you are cheating on your wife? You lying to your wife. You deceiving your wife. Me and my wife just talk about the video I posted on Instagram. Go look at the reel where the lady saying don't check the phones. I don't believe in that when you married. I should be able to check my wife's phone any time of the day. It ain't about going to snoop. I should be able to pick up her phone and go and search on Google. If her text pop up, I should be able to click it and read the text, and vice versa. Because you are one. The Bible tells the man, love your wife as your own body. Who gonna hurt their own body? Love her like your body. Love her the way Christ loved the church. You are one. You're not two. In a marriage, there is no privacy. Only privacy need to be when it's like, hey, you don't want to smell this in this bathroom. Hey, I need money transferred to my personal account because I'm finna order something and plan something for your birthday or for Christmas, and I don't want you to see the description of the store. That's when you need privacy. But other than that, you are one. And the only people, and this is what God has quickened in my spirit and helped me to understand, the only people who want that other level of privacy is people who got something to hide. When you got something to hide, when you talking about your spouse in a way you're not supposed to, when you're doing something you're not supposed to be doing on your phone, that's when you don't want your phone to be gone through. That's when, or when people say, oh, I don't go through my husband's phone or my wife's phone. Yeah, you don't have a need to. You don't have a reason to. That's forbidden fruit because there's no evidence. There's nothing that says it. But if you sense something, you absolutely got the right to. And me and my wife just was talking about that, and she was saying she stopped going through my phone because I would be talking to a client, and if she look at my phone, not going through it, but looking at my phone, and if she look at it and the conversation is too friendly or it seems a certain way, she could be reading into it and don't got the full context. And I said, would you go through my phone if you felt like I was cheating? She said, yeah, I probably would. And that's what in criminal justice and in what you call probable cause. And so, and if you go search something without probable cause, then it's called forbidden fruit in the court of law. The same thing, I took that analogy because I was a criminology major, and I put that in the court of love. If you have probable cause and you married, then yes, you can go scratch that lie. You go do a little digging when you have probable cause. It's not healthy to go digging and looking when you don't have probable cause, because now you could create a problem. But when you feel it in your spirit, this person is off, this person is different, something ain't the same, and this is my other half, then yes, that's probable cause, and you should look into that, because it ain't even about divorcing. It could be about, let's uncover this and let's address this and let's find out, why are we here? Why is our marriage here? And what do we need to do to get this in order? It ain't about throwing in the towel. It ain't about punching in the face. It ain't about fussing and fighting and cussing. It's about, let's address our issues. Did I help push you to this place? Did you help push me to this place? Okay, what have we not been hearing from one another? What do we need to hear? What work do we need to do? Let's do that. And that's what it's about. So listen to me. I ain't mean to go into all of that, but I want to talk about this and explain this because a lot of people don't get it. And I want to also encourage the women, don't take it lightly when a man has no religious conviction, when a man has no conviction from God, and when a man is living contrary to the word of God, don't just look over that. Don't just brush over that. So when that young man told me that, to be honest with you, marriage is more so than love. It's about being in right standing with God if you're going to be having sex. It's about being in right standing with God and not living in sin, because sin is sin. So fornication is a sin, and so is murder. So if fornication is deemed a sin, then you need to be in right standing with God, the same way you're not going out here stealing and taking lives and coveting your neighbor's husband or wife. You need to not be in sin. But it's so many men that I hear talk about they're not going to get married, but yet they sleeping around or they sleeping with a woman. And I'm like, so that lets me know right there you have no conviction from God, that you have no relationship with God, because you see in the Holy Bible that is a sin. So if you're willing to live in sin, you're willing to live in filth. You're willing to live contrary to the word of God. And if hell is literal, you're willing to bust hell wide open. God bless you. I pray for you. Good luck. I'm not with it. I have experienced God on such a deep level that I know God is real. That I can't play with my salvation. I can't play with God. I can't play with the favor of God. I can't do that. I don't walk around quoting scripture and bashing people over the head with the Bible. And we rarely even get to go to church because we are at the soccer field a lot of times on Sunday and Saturday. And so it's not even about sitting in the church like a car in the garage. It's about a relationship with God and coming together where two or three are gathered together in his name, and praying and walking and living with God and ministering in the way that we able to minister like this right here, and having a personal relationship with God that nobody else can't judge you or tell you what God done told you to do, because you talk to God yourself directly. So somebody else's opinion don't matter, because you know God hold your salvation, your eternity, not man or woman out aside and around you. And because a lot of people go to church and is an atheist, don't believe in the word of God, don't live by it, read it and don't even live by it, and don't even believe it, don't walk by faith, in fornication, going to church every time the doors is open and in fornication. That's a direct slap in the face of God to say, God, I don't believe you real, because I'm gonna come sit in this here church and I'm in this church sleeping with the other people that's in this church, knowing fornication is a sin. So I'm gonna defile the temple of God, the body that's a temple and the temple of God, and there's people, millions of people doing that. And so that's what we got to realize and understand. And when we come to that place to understand our convictions and understand that God is always watching, and understand that our blessings, our future, our eternity depends on how we walk and how we live. That yes, grace covers a multitude of sin, but you got to come out of the sin. That's why when Jesus forgave the sins, he said, go and sin no more. He didn't say, hey, go and sin right after this, because grace done covered it, so don't worry about trying to do the right thing. Jesus said in his word, be perfect as my Father in heaven is perfect. So he telling you, yes, you're going to slip and fall. Every man going to fall short of the glory of God, but you got to get up and you got to be mindful and you got to be conscious of what you're doing and do everything with the power of God to not sin. And if you sin, repent and get up and go and sin no more. Meaning you going with the mindset, I'm not going to sin. You're not going with the mindset, yeah, I'm finna just go sin again. That ain't how we ought to live. And so as a woman who watching this is how you should be living, and this is what you should see in a man. As a man who watching this is how you should be living, and this is what you should see in a woman. And so when we can do that and we can let God be the glue, we can let God, that relationship, that conviction, that understanding, that covenant, when that can be the center of our relationships, of our marriage, of our love, then things go a lot smoother. Things go a lot better for us, and they last longer, because when God gives a gift, he asks no sorrow. And when God gives it, man can't take it away. Man can't tear asunder what God has put together, as long as we keep God in the center as the glue of our relationship. Hey, this is Tony Gasson. God bless you, and thank you. They put the little up under my video, that little super thanks. It's like a heart with a $sign in it, and some of y'all be blessing me, and I just want to say thank you for that. And even when we go live, them super chats and things of that nature. I want to say thank you for that, because that's a blessing, and it touches my spirit. So thank you for being there and supporting in that way. You keeping the message, you making it worth my while, and just showing me, hey, I appreciate it. Keep coming back on here shooting videos. So I really appreciate that. God bless you. We'll talk soon.